Here's something nobody told you when you were handed that PCOS diagnosis. You can eat in a calorie deficit, hit the gym 5 days a week, cut out sugar completely, and still not lose a single pound. And it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's not a willpower problem. There's a hidden mechanism running in the background of your body that most doctors never fully explain, and until you understand it, every diet you try is basically fighting an uphill battle against your own hormones. I want to walk you through this like I would if we were sitting across from each other with coffee, because this stuff genuinely changes how you approach weight loss with PCOS. So let's get into it. The first thing you need to understand is that PCOS weight gain isn't primarily a calories in, calories out problem. It's an insulin problem. Here's what that actually means. When you eat, especially carbs, your blood sugar rises, and your pancreas releases insulin to move that sugar into your cells for energy. In a body without insulin resistance, this process is smooth. Insulin knocks on the cell's door, the door opens, sugar goes in, blood sugar comes back down. But with PCOS, a huge number of women develop insulin resistance, which means the cells stop responding to insulin's knock as easily. So your pancreas does the only thing it knows how to do. It makes more insulin, and then even more, trying to force that door open. The result is that women with PCOS are often walking around with chronically elevated insulin levels, even if their blood sugar looks totally normal on a standard test. And this is the part that matters for weight loss. Insulin is a storage hormone. Its literal job is to tell your body to store energy as fat and to block the breakdown of stored fat for fuel. So when insulin is chronically high, you are biochemically locked in fat storage mode almost all day long, regardless of how clean your diet is. This is why so many women with PCOS say things like, "I eat less than my friends and still gain weight." And they're not exaggerating. They're describing a real physiological difference. Your body isn't broken, it's just operating under a different set of hormonal rules, and those rules favor storage over release. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is the piece almost nobody talks about: cortisol. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and it has a direct, tangled relationship with insulin resistance that makes PCOS weight loss even harder. Think about the life of the average woman dealing with PCOS symptoms: irregular cycles, acne, hair thinning, fatigue, the frustration of not being believed by doctors, on top of normal life stress like work, relationships, maybe kids. That is a lot of chronic, low-grade stress. And chronic stress means chronically elevated cortisol. Cortisol's job, evolutionarily, is to prepare your body for a threat. It raises blood sugar so you have quick energy available. It encourages fat storage, specifically around the abdomen, because that's the fat most accessible to vital organs in an emergency. And it can actually worsen insulin resistance directly, because chronically high cortisol makes your cells even less responsive to insulin's signal. So now you've got two hormones, insulin and cortisol, essentially reinforcing each other in a loop. High insulin contributes to symptoms and stress. That stress raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol worsens insulin resistance and drives fat storage, especially around the midsection, which then feeds back into more insulin resistance. It's not that you're doing something wrong, it's that you're standing in the middle of a hormonal feedback loop that a simple calorie deficit was never designed to break. This is also why so many women with PCOS specifically struggle with stubborn belly fat that doesn't respond to normal diet and exercise the way weight in other areas might. It's not stubbornness, it's chemistry. Cortisol is quite literally directing fat to be stored there. So that's mechanism 1 and 2. And I'd argue they're the most surprising, because they explain why eat less, move more so often fails for PCOS bodies specifically. Now let's get into what's actually happening with your metabolism day to day, because this is where a lot of women get stuck in a cycle without realizing it. When you're insulin resistant, your blood sugar tends to spike higher after meals and then crash harder afterward. That crash isn't just uncomfortable, it's a real physiological event. Your body senses a rapid drop in available energy and responds with intense cravings, usually for fast carbs and sugar, because that's the quickest way to bring blood sugar back up. This is why you might do everything right at breakfast and then find yourself absolutely unable to resist something sweet at 3 p.m. That's not a lack of discipline. That's your blood sugar physically crashing and your brain sending out an emergency signal for quick fuel. And if you give in, which almost everyone does, because it's a biological drive, not a choice, you spike insulin again, and the whole cycle repeats. Multiply that by every single day, and you can see how someone can be trying to eat healthy while still riding a blood sugar roller coaster that keeps insulin elevated basically around the clock. On top of that, chronically high insulin interferes with how efficiently your body can access and burn stored fat for energy, even during exercise. This is part of why some women with PCOS say cardio alone doesn't seem to move the needle the way it does for other people. It's not that exercise doesn't matter, it absolutely does. It's that if insulin is constantly elevated, your body is getting a constant store, don't burn signal that partially works against the calorie burn you're creating through movement. Okay, so now the part you actually came here for. What do you do about this? The good news is that once you understand insulin and cortisol are the real drivers, the strategy shifts from eat less to stabilize and calm your hormones, and that's a completely different, much more sustainable approach. The first and most impactful shift is how you structure your meals to prevent those blood sugar spikes and crashes in the first place. This usually means pairing carbohydrates with protein, fiber, and fat rather than eating them alone. So instead of a bowl of cereal or plain toast, you're adding a source of protein like eggs or Greek yogurt, and healthy fat like nuts or avocado. This slows down how quickly sugar hits your bloodstream, which means a smaller insulin response, which means less of that crash and crave cycle later. Some women find it helpful to eat protein or fiber before the carb portion of a meal for the same reason. It changes the order sugar enters your system. This one change alone, done consistently, tends to have a bigger impact on PCOS weight loss than cutting calories further ever does, because you're addressing the actual hormone-driving fat storage instead of just eating less and staying stuck in the same insulin pattern. The second actionable piece is movement, but reframed. Instead of thinking, I need to burn as many calories as possible, think, I need to help my muscles use up glucose so there's less floating around demanding insulin. Strength training is particularly powerful here because muscle tissue is one of the biggest users of blood sugar in your body, and building more of it essentially gives you a bigger, more efficient system for clearing glucose without needing as much insulin to do it. Even something as simple as a 10 to 15-minute walk after meals has been shown in research to meaningfully blunt the blood sugar spike from that meal, which over time adds up to a real reduction in the insulin burden on your body. This is a much gentler, more sustainable form of exercise than punishing daily cardio sessions that, frankly, can sometimes raise cortisol further if you're already running on stress and poor sleep. Which brings me to the third piece, and I think this is the one most women skip because it feels less tangible than food and exercise. You have to actively lower cortisol, not just manage symptoms around it. This means genuinely prioritizing sleep, because even one night of poor sleep can measurably worsen insulin sensitivity the next day. It means looking honestly at your stress load and figuring out where you can create some breathing room, even small amounts, because chronic stress is doing real hormonal damage in the background regardless of how fine you feel handling it. And it means being cautious with extremely restrictive diets or excessive high-intensity exercise if your body is already under stress, because both of those are themselves stressors that can raise cortisol further and work against you. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do for PCOS weight loss isn't adding another workout, it's a walk, a full night of sleep, and a meal that doesn't send your blood sugar into orbit. And the fourth piece, which ties everything together, is consistency over intensity. Insulin resistance and cortisol dysregulation didn't happen overnight, and they're not going to resolve in a week of perfect eating. What actually moves the needle is small, repeatable habits. A protein-forward breakfast, a post-meal walk, a consistent sleep schedule, done most days, over months, not a drastic all-or-nothing overhaul that burns you out in 3 weeks. Your body responds to patterns, not perfection. If any of this is resonating with you, if you've felt like you've done everything right and still not seen the scale move, I want you to hear this clearly. It was never a discipline problem. It was a hormone problem, and now you actually understand the mechanism behind it, which means you can work with your body instead of against it. I know this is a lot to take in, so I put together a free guide that breaks down exactly how to structure PCOS-friendly meals to manage insulin, along with a simple starter routine for movement and stress that doesn't require hours at the gym. I'll drop the link right below this video so you can grab it and start putting this into practice today. And if this explanation helped things finally click for you, stick around, because I've got more videos breaking down exactly what's happening in your body and, more importantly, what to actually do about it.